Story 1. Listening to how he talks about other women is one of the most important early things you can do. If all the women he goes to school with or works with are described negatively, walk away. Story 2. They will dismiss your feelings, get frustrated at the smallest things, shift the blame onto you if you bring up any concerns, not take accountability for their actions, and give half-hearted apologies without change. They will slowly try to control you, make you feel less than. The list goes on. Story 3. For me, I saw the signs, but I just did not know how bad it could get, and I had very little relationship experience. They always try to one-up you or be in competition with you. This can even be about sad stories. They have an even sadder one. They do not know how to take accountability for their wrongs. You constantly feel like you have to over-explain why something they did that is blatantly wrong is wrong. They do not respect your boundaries and constantly try to push past them. They guilt-trip you a lot into doing things instead of just communicating like a healthy adult. They have road rage. They do not care or appear to have no capacity to see how they are hurting you. You feel like you are walking on eggshells. You start hiding really bad behaviors they do from your friends and family to protect them. 10. They yell at you to assert dominance. Story 4. If he has a problem with you seeing friends or family, if he has a bad temper, if he grabs you or forces you to stay somewhere, if he ever punches the wall, if he always seems to yell and threaten you when he is mad. Story 5. Obligatory. Not a girl, but one thing I have noticed is the lack of respect for boundaries. Going through your things, spying on you, always wanting or demanding your presence are big indicators. Many abusers treat their partners as if they are possessions instead of fellow human beings, and therefore, in their minds, they can treat them however they want. Once they feel they have solidified the fact that their partner will not leave them, they gradually continue pushing and abusing more and more until they are kicking you like a broken dog. Story 6. How well he handles being told no, especially for frivolous or silly reasons. I do not condone testing boyfriends or significant others. However, at some point in every relationship, you will disagree on something. He wants Italian and you want Mexican. You make plans and you get sick. He says he wants to stay in and you want to go out. How well he handles these situations, whether he immediately respects your no or listens to your opinion and is willing to change his stance, matters. If you say, "Hey, sorry I can't go out tonight, I have work," and he says, "That's fine, I didn't want to see you anyway. Guess I'll just kill myself," then you probably should not date him. Story 7. If he is overly jealous or controlling, if he ignores your boundaries, if he says mean things and then says it was just a joke, if he ever lays hands on you in any sort of threatening way. Story 8. A strong early sign is confusion about why he is angry, not treating you well, overreacting, ignoring you, blowing up a small issue, disliking the people in your life, where you go, how you spend your time, or how you spend money. Anytime there is a lack of clarity that could be resolved with healthy adult communication but instead turns into drama with no resolution. From there, it will turn into resentment, grudges, record-keeping, point-scoring, name-calling, and outright abuse that is always your fault. He becomes the victim because he has a large amount of proof to shove in your face every time you argue or ask for clarity. Do not get lost trying to untangle his nonsense. It is all smoke and mirrors. Tune into your body and mind and examine how he makes you feel. Sad, neglected, drained, unsafe, dysregulated, rehashing arguments repeatedly trying to figure out why and how, modifying your life and behaviors to lessen arguments, trying to talk sense and reach him, but it never happens or only until he starts again. Eventually, every argument is about his feelings and how you have to please him, but it all starts with confusion, or what I believe is an early form of gaslighting. Get out before you are in too deep. It will be difficult because the relationship probably started with him mirroring and love-bombing you, but this relationship is unhealthy and will become highly abusive in all aspects. Story 9. Really early red flags I absolutely talked myself out of recognizing. Wanted to move things very quickly. Spoke negatively about their ex, portraying themselves as a huge victim. Did not have a relationship with family and had few friends. Told me I was too nice to people, trying to convince me I was being taken advantage of. Story 10. losing their temper and calling you names while trying to blame it on a bad day at work, work-related stress, or something else beyond your control. Not allowing you to see your family or friends. Suddenly giving you silent treatment for days without telling you why and expecting you to be a mind reader. Story 11. I am a guy, but growing up I had a friend who was like this. Paranoia. Always wondering where you are and who you are with. Accusing you of cheating because they know how easy it is to lie and get away with it. Giving you ultimatums like, if you don't do X, I will break up with you right now. No control over their emotions. Will call you 20 times in a row if you hang up on them. Alienating you from your friends. Bipolar-like symptoms, such as pure anger towards you followed by showering you with love afterward. Often using money and gifts as ways to say sorry or show affection. Story 12. My exes would 1. Not allow me to talk to my male friends. Check my WhatsApp messages. Check my call records. Have their friends keep an eye on me in college and graduate school. Show up unannounced at my office. Force me to introduce them to my parents. Emotionally abuse me, cheat, and talk to multiple women in an intimate manner while accusing me. The second ex physically abused me. He threw his dinner plate at me. The first ex tried to file a police report against my parents. 10. During our relationship, the first ex isolated me from my parents, friends, goals, and identity. 11. Both dismissed my depression and called me a spoiled brat because of it and my inability to continue my work. The list goes on. I would like to name and shame them, but I feel it is beneath me. I am so lucky my parents helped me move away from those two individuals. Story 13. I was deeply in love, and we had not been dating long. Perhaps a few months. I said something to him as we were driving, and he got angry and began to jerk the car around the street. I sat silently, shocked. I saw him pull himself in check, but I knew then he had a temper and I needed to be alert. He never hit me. He never laid a hand on me. However, I heard stories about his temper from his ex, so I knew, but clearly he was trying to change. Story 14. Why does he do that? By Lundy Bancroft. Reddit's favorite book available for free. Story 15. If he tries to control what you wear, who you see, or how much time you spend with friends or family. If he gets mad at you for being yourself, accuses you of flirting when you do basic human things like ordering a meal at a restaurant or saying excuse me when you brush past someone in a crowded place. When you realize that you used to have hobbies and interests that took up a lot of your free time but you no longer do them because he did not want you to. When they criticize your looks, your job, your intelligence, your friends or family, your past, your interests, when they criticize anything. Basically, anytime someone tries to make you smaller and hold you back instead of expanding your world or lifting you up. Good people will like you as you are, and you will not have to temper yourself or your world for them. Story 16. Love bombing. Apart from showering you with gifts and compliments, a huge sign is that they want the relationship to progress much faster than you expect. Love bombing is usually the initial stage before they start to control you by gradually restricting things. Story 17. Moving too quickly or pushing for commitment. Love bombing, jealousy, snide or deprecating remarks, minimizing his bad behavior, not wanting you to see friends or family. Story 18. If he has a bad temper, is a huge hypocrite, is unreasonable, finds comfort in causing you discomfort, teaches you a lesson, makes you doubt your relationships, lies about you, never takes accountability, destroys his own belongings and blames you for it, you can never please him and cannot take constructive criticism well, I could go on. Story 19. This is something I have noticed in my ex-friend. The way he talked about women revealed his projections. He constantly needed validation from his friend group about why he was right and his girlfriend was not. He swept everything under the rug when it was his fault, but when his significant other did something, it suddenly became an issue. Every time they had an argument, they broke up and got back together within the same day. He had anger issues. If he sends you a photo of himself punching a hole in the wall from video games, run. He possibly had substance abuse problems involving nicotine, alcohol, drugs, and others. His behavior was influenced by his friend group. Story 20. These have probably already been said, but If he begins isolating you from people you generally interact with, including family, it may be subtle, or he will always be around so that you cannot have private conversations with them. Expecting you to do more around the house than him. It should be shared depending on what is happening on any given day for either person. Not allowing you to make decisions for yourself or making you second-guess yourself about those decisions. Story 21. 1. Rushing the relationship, such as saying, "I love you," after barely knowing you for a few weeks, or asking about marriage and commitment very early, punching holes in walls, doors, or other objects, or getting into fights with other men, micromanaging you, refusing to drop arguments, causing them to go in circles, pressuring you for sex, asking for details about past abuse, displaying jealousy towards your family, friends, or past relationships without reason, making you feel like you cannot confide in your friends about how he is treating you, policing your phone, what you wear, or how you talk. 10. Using sexist language or slurs. 11. Escalating arguments by following you or blocking your exit if you try to walk away. 12. Driving erratically during fights to scare you when you are in the car. Story 22. He oscillates between blaming, guilting, being angry, and being super apologetic. I got caught in this trap in a previous relationship. My ex talked about his childhood trauma but framed it by saying he had been to many therapy sessions and had learned on his own how to form healthy relationships, which obviously did not end up being the case. I began to see a pattern emerge. He would pick a fight, play the victim when I told him his behavior was not okay, get angry at me, and then come back later apologizing, saying he totally recognized how awful his behavior had been, and remind me that his trauma is hard to overcome. This method was very effective at drawing me back in. Do not fall for it. Apologies are only meaningful if there is a serious effort to change the behavior. Also, some things just should not happen in the first place. If he expects you to be his teacher and you are expending copious amounts of effort guiding him through conflicts he caused, walk away. Story 23. Has a temper and the ability to raise his voice over small things. Punches walls. Shuts down all your ideas or mocks them. Lies about things they do not need to lie about. Their default is to push others down rather than help raise them up. Story 24. You have to imagine that you are trying to divorce that person and what that scenario would be like. Now you have your answer. Story 25. They talk negatively about other women or have strong opinions about what women should wear or do. This is very different from minding your own business and simply preferring a specific kind of partner. Repeat the first point if they cannot stop talking about their ex. They are very concerned about the number of people you have had sexual relations with, even if they approve of your number. They cannot accept responsibility or admit being wrong about anything. For example, if you point out they ran a stop sign or that the actor they are thinking of starred in a different movie, notice how they respond. They portray themselves as the victim in almost any conflict. This is different from being open about experiences with abuse or bigotry. They want you to feel sorry for them, not understand and empathize. They believe false accusations of rape and abuse are widespread. They may mention this when discussing news or celebrity gossip. They are mean or aggressive towards servers, bartenders, or anyone working for them. They think it is funny when disabled or elderly people do something that might be embarrassing. They laugh at the misfortune of others in general. Story 26. The biggest indicators are 1. How they first talk about other women and minorities to your face. How he talks to you when he loses control. Note that he will always target your insecurities to whittle away your self-esteem. It is very coordinated. Do not let his tears fool you. Isolating you from family and friends is also a massive telltale sign. The biggest red flag is if they ever grab you by the throat. Immediately leave and never return. This is a major indicator that he may attempt to kill you in the future. Source: I volunteer at shelters for women and LGBTQ homeless individuals during holidays. I have sadly met many survivors who experienced this. A handful vanished some time after, never to be heard from again. Story 27. Controlling people do not lose their temper. They use their temper. Watch if your partner is able to keep calm with friends and at work. If he can, but loses his temper at home, then he is using it to manipulate the outcome with you. Story 28. Ladies, please be smarter than me. What I missed before we got married. Disrespectful to his mother. Did not like me drinking alcohol or spending too much time with friends. He wanted me to message him back immediately when he texted. Got a job at the same place where I worked part-time at university. Aggressive driving? Were telling me to get out and walk if we had a disagreement while driving. What happened after we got married? Disrespectful towards me, calling me names. I asked him not to treat me this way, but it did not stop. Would sleep in another room or book a hotel after big arguments. Would slam doors, throw things next to me, and hold my wrists tightly so I could not move away during an argument. We owned a home together, and he did not want me to have anyone over or host a friend for tea, even when he was not around. He did not want me to host my aunt, who is a psychologist and the only family member I am close with. Accused me of cheating with various false claims. Had ownership of all major bank accounts and investments in his name. I sent him my full salary every month, and he handled how it was managed. He then sent me an allowance and checked my bank statements every month to scrutinize the transactions. I took on 99% of household chores and pet care for the dog he wanted and promised to help with, while working full-time. He told me I needed to do all this because I worked from home and he earned more than I did. Once threatened to kill me, told me I should just divorce him, then told me I was abusive after I pushed him away during the argument. He left and stayed in a hotel that night. Told me not to move jobs when I interviewed at higher paying, more interesting positions. Told me I did not like flowers, despite me smelling every flower I passed, treating myself to small bouquets occasionally, and visiting rose gardens often. Called me a narcissist and said I was just like my mother, which was not surprising. I found a therapist because I was worried I had hurt people in my life. I had a small breakdown and asked friends if I had shown narcissistic traits. The therapist helped me work through the accusations and parts of the relationship and provided resources about abuse. Would touch me in the middle of the night while I was asleep and continued to do this several times after I told him it made me uncomfortable. Kept asking to be friends after he divorced me. He is now with his coworker. Story 29. Their actions do not match their words. They are unable to honor no, try to manipulate you when you confront them, and claim that they are a nice person. Story 30. If you meet at ages 16 and 25, my mom and stepdad. If he waits for you to be legal, baby trapping, don't stay for the kids. We see it, we're living it with you and wondering why you're staying even though it hurts us and you. Doesn't want you to be around your family. Doesn't want you to have friends. Won't let you work, makes you quit, or forces you to be a stay-at-home. Excessive drinking at any point. Verbally abusive, it won't stop there. Don't lie to yourself. Ever hits you, it's never just one time, and you don't need to stick around to try and find out. Can't be told no. Not always abusive, but if he's obsessed with his mom, not being a nice son, but loves his mom in a way that he will do everything she says. She says jump, and he's jumping. I'm talking about naming his firstborn daughter after his mom's full name. My sister hates her name. Constantly says they are going to harm or kill themselves if you do something. Break up, go to a friend's, talk to the police. If you have a gut feeling that they're an unsafe person, don't wait around to find out. You'll get better intuition by actually listening to yourself. Other people saying that they are a great person doesn't mean anything. My stepdad threatened and made slitting throat gestures in open juvenile court towards my mom, and the people in court still called her dramatic and said he was a great guy. This was after beating her into the kitchen cabinets in front of my sisters. She kicked him to refocus him on her, which pissed him off more because he started walking towards my sisters. The guardian ad litem was trying to put us in his legal custody even after he signed his rights away because she was also an alcoholic and felt for him. I'm eating muffins and my thumbs hurt, but you can read other comments. All my advice applies to either gender. Women should look up how much your chance as a woman goes up if your boyfriend, husband, or partner has ever shown the possibility of being violent, even one violent act. Then look at how much more that statistic increases if you get pregnant. Before trying to justify his actions or letting him justify them, ask yourself, do I want to become part of that statistic? Story 31. Just from things I have read, 1. If your friends get uncomfortable, listen to them. He is going to try to isolate you from friends and family. Your friends will almost certainly see this before you do. He pushes for you not to work. This is usually because if he controls the money, it is harder for you to leave. Similar to the above, there is pressure to have children right away. This will usually also include a push for you to be a stay-at-home mother. This further limits your ability to get out. Beware of things like condom mishaps. Any fight has to be your fault. The goal for a person engaging in this kind of behavior is for you to internalize that conflict is your fault, and to therefore try to avoid fights by anticipating and conforming to their demands. This means that any actual argument will be met with guilt-tripping or other gaslighting tactics. Fights will also suddenly appear out of nowhere. This accomplishes the same goal and usually happens when you have reached a point where you just try to avoid upsetting them. They are not happy with that. They are trying to train you to preemptively tune in to what they want. Story 32. When he is too perfect in the beginning, like too good to be true, always on, always says and does the right thing, sweeps you off your feet with romantic gestures, basically on his best behavior to mask the person he actually is. Also, a big sign is if he spoils you right away in a way that an average man would not do. In an equal partnership where you respect someone, there is a give and take. This man will basically try to buy you, but it is so excessive that you feel flattered and confuse it with romance. Then he will change once he gets a hint that you are committed. They reveal who they really are inch by inch. Also, when you go to him for emotional support and he takes the side of your enemy, run. Story 33. Name-calling female relatives. I dated one man who called his sister a derogatory name and did not think much of his mother. Road rage. I do not just mean a few swear words at drivers, but full-on rage. The same man actually threw a heavy object at a car, which absolutely shocked me. I ended the relationship after that, and he insulted me severely. It was helpful to recognize the warning signs early. Any form of jealousy and insecurity tends to worsen over time. Story 34. Inability to communicate clearly about feelings. I was with a man for 5 years who had difficulty expressing himself verbally but was not violent. After a year of trying to discuss our lack of connection and expressing my unhappiness, while he stonewalled me because he did not know how to communicate, he eventually became physically violent. I left him 6 months later because he did not take any steps to improve. Story 35. Beware the grand gesture, especially early in the relationship. It is often a control mechanism meant to reel you in and manipulate you into feeling obligated to him. Story 36. All of his exes were crazy. Everybody else is the cause of his problems. He is not accountable. Love bombing. Slowly separating you from friends and family. He does not like them. They are not good and do not care about you or treat you right. But he loves you, and you are better off without them. You should not go see friends or family and stay with him. You are so beautiful he is scared of others stealing you away. He has a short fuse. Starts making little jabs disguised as jokes at you over time that become more frequent and nasty to slowly chip away at your confidence. After losing control, you get love-bombed. He never meant it. You know he loves you, but it was your fault, and he can forgive you even though he was in the wrong. The temper tantrums escalate. Doors get slammed, surfaces and walls get hit, things get thrown. He starts commenting on what you wear. You're not going out in that, are you? He starts getting paranoid and making accusations that you are flirting with strangers, friends, and others. Substance problems, if present, escalate. They start trying to instigate arguments or goad you into getting upset and irritated. Not always, but sometimes you start getting pushed about. Sometimes it can start outright with being hit, kicked, and so on. And of course, good old gaslighting. There are many red flags, but always remember you deserve the best. Do not settle for less. And if you see signs, run. There is help out there. Story 37. I'm a guy, so sorry. I apologize for answering when it was not directed to me. However, I think other perspectives are important, especially with this type of situation. I have met a handful of men like this, and for some reason I could tell right away that was the kind of guy they were. They usually have the same common characteristics. They are always a victim in some way. They have elaborate, ridiculous stories about women they used to be with, and all of them were crazy. Some might be, but if everyone else is always the crazy one, you are probably the problem. Their treatment of pets and their attitude towards them in general is also telling. Most notably, they do not have a group of friends they have known for a long time and are close with. They do not really have any stories from their past or anyone who shows up from their past. They just bounce around and latch onto new groups of people once they find a new partner and adapt to that group. No one has stood by them through life for a long time for a reason. Story 38. When having an argument, if he says something like, "I would hit you now," this is definitely a warning sign. Story 39. History of physical and domestic violence with an ex-partner or multiple ex-partners. Witnessing mother being abused by father, disrespects women, easily triggered, fits of rage, damages or breaks items in the household. Story 40. Early red flags include jealousy, love bombing, controlling behavior, mocking you, gaslighting, ignoring boundaries, blaming others, and making you feel like you are walking on eggshells. If your gut feels off, trust it. Story 41. Having issues with coming into physical contact with your friends of any gender, such as hugging your female friends goodbye or giving them a kiss on the cheek. Stopped that very quickly. Story 42. Intensely charming. Superficial charm is the #1 diagnostic criterion for narcissistic personality disorder, psychopathy, and sociopathy. This is due to high cognitive empathy and zero emotional empathy. This combination makes it easy to read others and tell them what they want to hear, making bonding and shame impossible. The absence of shame leads to high confidence and zero fear. Story 43. Excessive control involves dictating what you can wear, who you can spend time with, and managing your schedule. They want your routine to remain unchanged and become upset when it deviates. For example, they may demand, "Call me every day at this time," require you to share your location, or show up unannounced to ensure you are where you are supposed to be. Attempted social isolation is also common. If someone speaks negatively about your friends and family or tries to make plans that prevent you from seeing them, these are red flags. Temper issues are typical, but some people weaponize mental illness. For example, they might say, "I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, so every detail of your life must be how I want it," or, "I'm a control freak because of my trauma, and you have to accept it." Both statements have been heard from previous partners and are unacceptable. I also have trauma and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, but that is never an excuse to be controlling. When I become overstimulated or experience a panic attack, I manage it without taking it out on others. I have also put years of work into therapy. Although I am bisexual, I have found that these traits are red flags across all genders. Story 44. Not sure about girls, which is a sad state of this question, but as a woman, the #1 sign is if he gives you the ick, that dreadful knot in your chest or abdomen. You caught him in a lie, it feels like a gut punch. There is a suspicious feeling about a woman in his life that should not otherwise be a concern. Stuff like that. Story 45. Men who put themselves down to avoid confrontation or gain sympathy. When he gets upset or defensive for himself when he was the one who upset you, it is a huge red flag and a tactic used by highly manipulative men. Example. You say, "Wow, that wasn't a nice thing to say." He responds, "I guess I'm just worthless trash." Or, "I can't do anything right. I'm an asshole." Now you cannot be mad or upset because he is hurt. This is a manipulative tactic. Story 46. Pay attention to the words they say, even if their tone is completely reasonable. Criticism, judgment, belittling, isolation, and manipulation can easily be hidden behind a reasonable tone and friendly smile if you are not looking for it. A smiling assassin is still an assassin. Story 47. Questioning everything you do with any other person, whether the other person is family, friend, or stranger. Trying to make household rules that apply only to you. Being interested in collecting firearms. Story 48. Policing what you wear, who you see, and where you go. Isolating you from your family and friends, monitoring your social media. telling you that he is all you need and that you don't need anyone else in your life. Becoming overly angry if he finds out you have male friends or associate with other men at work. Talking about having a baby very early on. This is to trap you and keep you tied to him. Being rude to people he sees as below him, service workers, people of other races, and so on. Sudden fits of anger over small things. Any kind of violent act like punching walls, kicking objects, or driving erratically during an argument in a car. Claiming that all his ex-partners are bad people and that he was the victim. Each of these things alone might be dismissed, but when you step back and take note of everything, it builds a picture of a potential abuser. The most important thing is to listen to your gut. Your gut will tell you if something is wrong. That sick feeling in your stomach is your body warning you that this person is not good for you. Listen to it. Story 49. They slowly sneak in bits of criticism to see if you will be the bigger person and keep the peace. If you do, it will escalate into full-on hypercriticism to try to make you jump through hoops and feel less than. Story 50. He is aggressive with inanimate objects around him when he is angry, such as kicking or throwing things. Story 51. Physical violence against other men, such as fighting when drunk, can lead to eventual physical violence against you. This also includes jealousy, possessiveness, and casual misogyny toward other women. Story 52. The biggest red flag I missed at the beginning of my abusive relationship was that he made me feel like I needed to prove to him I wasn't promiscuous. I used to be able to strike up friendly conversations with anyone, in line at the grocery store, with another group of people next to me at a bar, and so on. He would make little comments about how that was inappropriate behavior. Instead of recognizing it as controlling, I stopped talking to people. I wore less makeup because it was considered inappropriate. I deleted my social media accounts because when old male friends messaged me, I was being judged. It got worse very quickly. Story 53. They manipulate you over the smallest things. They are nosy to the point where they make decisions for your family members, even before marriage. They call women chicks. They cross all your boundaries. They tell you your weight is a lot in one moment and call you hot the next. They have hot and cold moments, like praising you one minute and criticizing everything you do the next. They do not respect your feelings. Yes, all of this happened in the arranged marriage setup. Run for your life if the person is like that. Story 54. Those are just a few traits that, in retrospect, should have raised my alarm bells with my ex-husband. Victimized himself. Trauma dumping from day one. He gradually became less calm during regular conversations because he saw everything as an attack. He hurt an animal in his youth. Unable to take criticism. Talked badly about exes. Love bombing. Frequent casual alcohol consumption, mostly when he played video games. Used graphic language while playing video games, such as wishing death on people and describing ways he would torture them. Many past relationships with women who always did him wrong. Short-tempered when things did not go his way. Overall, he was slightly different in his persona at home than he was outside, right from the start. Overspending. Frequently gave advice to his friends about issues I had with him, such as finances. Always used foul language and did not care if people disliked it. Crossed boundaries. Never took accountability. Story 55. If he has been accused of abuse before, do not believe any strange story he tells to defend it. The same thing could happen to you after a while. Story 56. Love bombing. The inability or refusal to accept you saying no to them or to respect your boundaries when you express them. There is something called the no test that you can look up, which is a great way to watch out for this particular red flag. Story 57. If you are a woman in a relationship with a man and have to ask this question, then there is your answer. It is time to go now. Story 58. Anytime you point something out or try to set up a boundary, you are called insecure. This is a common manipulation tactic. Story 59. Very emotional, was always the victim, and could not take true accountability. I never thought he would get violent until I had to lock myself in the bathroom, and he bruised me while trying to break down the door. He proceeded to say he was the victim in that situation because I was insulting him and insisted that he was not at fault and had my best interest in mind. Story 60. very quick to snap in a way that feels over the top. This was the major thing I noticed while we were dating. When we got together and moved in, that is when the quick snapping started to escalate to physical. This began not long after I moved in, probably 2 weeks. Story 61. Moving too quickly in the relationship makes it harder to leave an abuser when they are on the lease, share a pet or child, are married, or in similar situations. Story 62. When he is always the victim and blames others, there is something about the eyes. They look evil. Story 63. Extreme road rage and erratic driving occurred. Never again. I think this is a clear sign of someone who does not care about your safety and has a dangerously inflated ego. Story 64. When they are kind to you but only to you, they lose their temper easily with others or do not seem to be kind to anyone else. It will only be a matter of time until you are the one they are not kind to anymore. Story 65. Here are some things that I find are not mentioned as much when this question is asked, but in my experience with a covert narcissist. Self-deprecating humor. Everyone makes jokes about themselves from time to time, but when 90 to 95% of their jokes poke fun at themselves, it is usually an indicator of low self-esteem which can lead to abusive behavior. Especially if the jokes mainly focus on how they are not man enough. They make fun of you. It can seem like harmless teasing in the moment, but if they constantly make jokes at your expense or make fun of your interests or quirks, it really starts to wear on your self-esteem. They break your things. I am not talking about rage-induced destruction. I am talking about the random glasses that get broken every time they load the dishwasher, your expensive blender that suddenly has scratches after they used it, or the jacket you lent them that is suddenly fraying at the seams. Even if unintentional, they are careless with your things. They want to rescue you. After my last relationship, I was looking for advice on how not to enter another abusive relationship. One of the best pieces of advice I received was to not disclose so early in new relationships that I had experienced abuse. I thought by doing so I was being forthcoming about any potential baggage I had, but actually, I was just projecting how vulnerable I was. Abusive men love wounded birds. They want to swoop in and rescue a woman so that they become the center of that woman's world. They want someone who will forever idolize them and be eternally grateful in a way that is completely selfish and unattainable. Even if the woman is grateful, it is never enough for them. Everything has to be about them. Anything positive or significant that happens to you has to be twisted so that they are the center of attention. My ex would become moody and irritable every time some big life event happened to me. He would claim that he was just depressed. But these depressive episodes only seemed to occur when something cool and positive was going on in my life. If I did not drop everything to pay attention to him and console him, then a fight would inevitably break out about how I do not support him or care about the relationship. Nothing could ever just be about me and my accomplishments, and God forbid I forgot to thank him for being such a supportive and wonderful boyfriend. Story 66. This may seem obvious, but prioritizing alcohol consumption is a problem. They don't want to do anything or go anywhere if alcohol isn't involved. In my early 20s, I thought my boyfriend was fun when he drank, and all his friends were the same way, so I didn't think much of it. 6 years later, after the birth of our child, I finally realized it wasn't fun anymore. Alcohol was and always would be his #1 priority. I thought he would grow out of it, but I divorced him 4 years ago, and I haven't seen or heard from him since. It is truly alarming to look back at the signs I missed because I wanted it to work so badly. Story 67. They cannot shut off or compartmentalize feelings until a more appropriate time or setting. There is never any patience to discuss something later when you have had a chance to think about it, or when you are in a more appropriate setting. They must confront you now on their terms and only their terms because their sense of control matters more than any other concern. Story 68. That girl who posted that her boyfriend cut down her favorite plant to the stump when he was mad at her. Story 69. He encourages you to act like a girlfriend or wife, but does not want anything serious and will not label or progress the relationship. Story 70. I have received a lot of criticism for this tactic, but I have had many issues with abuse in my past. I start a small disagreement in a public place, something that would be forgotten in a few days, like asking, "What do you mean by that comment?" Then I observe how they handle themselves. If they lose control in public, they will do worse behind closed doors. I have explained this tactic to all of my partners, and they have been understanding. Story 71. The need to be in control or micromanaging what you do shows a lack of respect for your autonomy. When someone does not apologize when they are wrong, it creates a constant ego battle of always wanting to be right or avoiding accountability. They maximize your faults and dismiss theirs. Being nice without being honest is a form of manipulation. This erodes trust quickly. Any verbal threat is unacceptable. Physical violence, even if minor, is never acceptable. One of my ex-partners threw a doorstop past me when he was upset over something minor before we started dating. He never apologized for his behavior, and I ended up apologizing for making him upset. This is never okay. Years later, during an argument, he restrained my wrists, pinned me down on the bed, and yelled at me. I begged him 3 times to let me go, but he did not. I do not remember being on the floor when I came out of tonic immobility. I could not look at him the same way again. For me, I am on a break from romantic relationships because of the trauma from abusive ones. Story 72. Gaslighting you. Being dismissive of your feelings. Being controlling of who you can and cannot see. Trying to tell you your friends are not actually your friends. Story 73. Surprised no one has mentioned age. It is not always the same reasons, but older men dating younger women is almost always because they either cannot attract women their own age or because younger women are easier to control, and they purposefully seek them out. Young women who are drawn to charming older men are also likely struggling with family or past issues and are therefore predisposed to abuse. Story 74. A combination of inability to take accountability, blame-shifting whataboutisms, mood swings, emotional short temper, history of boxing, football, or other violent contact sports, works in law enforcement or served in the military, road rage, raising their voice at you, throwing things, punching the wall, insults or jabs when upset, lack of friends or troubled friendships, alcoholism, addiction, treats animals poorly, is indifferent to animal suffering, or has a high tolerance for animal suffering, assuming the worst, catastrophizing, emotional withholding, giving you the silent treatment as punishment or retaliation, inability or unwillingness to resolve conflict and de-escalate arguments, presence problems without constructive solutions, emotionally codependent, criticizing your body or appearance, needs constant access to you and your whereabouts. And then there is the look in the eyes. On true crime shows, victims often describe how their attackers' eyes turned black, how it seemed like there was no human inside, just evil. It is like a predatory vestige. I have seen that look in bar fights, which makes sense, survival instincts are triggered, but it is chilling to see it from your partner in the middle of an argument. I saw it once on a girl's boyfriend when he did not approve of what she was wearing. She wore it anyway, and by the end of the day, he attacked her for it. Story 75. Oh God. It took me many times to leave my abusive ex. I don't even know why, considering I know that I am a pretty mentally strong person. Honestly, some people are just really good at making you love them and then destroying you. This is what I learned and will always be a red flag in my book. Punching walls when mad. Disrespecting women, especially his own mother, by criticizing the way they look, talk, or act. For example, I remember once sitting at a bar and a woman with hot pink hair caught my attention. He said, "Look at that woman. Obviously she wants to be the center of attention. I can't believe I didn't leave then. Accusing you of cheating all the time. Calling you any names. My fiancé and I have been together for 5 years. Despite going through tough times like anyone else, he has never called me anything disrespectful. Starting a fight anytime you have plans with other people." Story 76. When your friends get a bad feeling about him, there is usually a reason. A friend of mine was dating a man who did not feel right to our group. We all sensed it, but she ignored our concerns. It turned out he was emotionally abusive and sometimes physically abusive. Because of this, she stayed with my wife and me quite often. Eventually, she left him, but she was left with emotional and other scars. Story 77. They would get upset over small things. For example, he would get angry when I told my mother where I was when I was with him. I was 17 and still living at home. I was close to my mother and did not think it was wrong to inform her of my whereabouts. Story 78. How he treats other people in his inner circle and outside of it matters. If he is mean to his family or yours, his friends or yours, waiters, strangers on the street, it reveals where his mind finds comfort. I understand having conflict when it is valid or keeping opinions private. People are allowed to feel strongly about their communities, especially if it also affects them. But if he has to make excuses for being rude or disrespectful to anyone who does not deserve it, that is a clear sign. Story 79. Nothing is his fault. There are excuses for everything. All of his ex-partners are described as toxic or liars whom he hates. He polices small things that do not seem important at first, such as not liking a specific person, and becomes upset when you spend time with them or uses guilt to manipulate you. Story 80. When he was in an abusive relationship, he developed side effects that negatively affect him. Usually, this is due to attachment to a person, which does not fade for a long time because it was formed in a complex way and became fixed. Therefore, it is difficult to move on even if the relationship has ended. This negatively impacts the new partner, such as comparing the current partner's appearance, manner of speech, behavior, and ability to dress with the ex. If in the past relationship he was the victim, in the current one he takes the opposite position. Based on my observations and experience, such individuals cannot build calm and healthy relationships because peace is usually boring for them. They need the usual drama that drives their partner crazy. Until they resolve their issues and decide to change, they will continue to suffer in all their relationships. Story 81. If you feel confused or doubt yourself often after conversations that include differing opinions, for example, when discussions do not stay on subject but turn to how you are wrong for worrying about something in the first place. Story 82. If they become possessively jealous or controlling, pull away or cut contact whenever you have arguments or disagreements, or make you feel bad, guilty, or as if you have done something wrong when you have not. Story 83. Look and listen to how he treats his mother. Is he respectful or does he speak badly about her behind her back? How does your father treat his wife? Because one day that is how he will treat you. Count on this. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.